This is the second season, and as you know, the goal of these brown bags is to really educate, share best practices, as well as experiences in trust funds and co-financing. Today we have Joel Molel, as well as Samuel from AGTF, who are going to talk to us about their funds. And Joel has been in development for 12 plus years, 15 plus years actually, and been at the bank for about 3.5 years, or close to 3 years, I think. Samuel has been at the bank since 2018 and was previously a banker in Ghana. So both two individuals with deep experience, and they'll share their comments on their respective funds, and then we'll have open it up for questions. So Joel, why don't I let you start and spend 10, 15 minutes talking about the fund, and then we'll do questions, and then Samuel will jump in after that. So over to you, Joel.
Thank you, Roderick, and thank you, everyone, and good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, where you are. I'm going to share my screen on the fund so that I can present. So I hope people can see. Jian, could you confirm if you can see?
Yes, go on, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to present China Grant for Technical Assistance. This is a fund which was, I'll give you the details as we go. Oh, wait, what's the next? Why is it not moving? Oh yeah, so the content is basically, what I'm going to talk about is trust fund overview, then I'll give you the donors, I'll talk briefly about the objectives, areas of intervention, eligible beneficiaries, and access to the trust fund and governance. Then I talk briefly about the track record and the impact and some of the examples. And then of course the contact information, yes. So China Grant for Technical Assistance was signed off in April 1996, one of the oldest funds that we still have. Initially, it was around 2 million, and a lot of it was tied and is still tied up to now, 90% of it, and only 10% is untied. So key objectives is around studies, experts, and consultant support, and other technical assistance. So I will jump to, because a lot of these details are in the next slide. So this fund is funded by China only. No, there is no other donor into it. And the objective of the fund is to finance execution of the bank's identified studies, provision of experts and consultants, and other technical assistance. And some of the areas of intervention, which you can see here, is around financing of the bank, or what is headed by the fund, or the Chinese government. That is in collaboration with the Chinese government, consultants or the firms of consulting firms for studies, technical assistance, which has to benefit the RMCs, the regional member countries. And some of them could include things like project identification, appraisal, supervision, evaluation, things like that. Another area is around finance, technical assistance related to rehabilitation of existing projects, which can be experiencing difficulties, or financing training for professional or technical bank staff, and of course officials of regional member countries or institutional support of the bank, or the fund itself, or regional member countries. It can also support local costs for short-term assignments, and also other technical assistance activities as mutually agreed between the bank and China. So who are eligible? It is the regional member countries, the bank, and of course its staff, and also identified regional member countries institutions. How do we access this fund? So the fund does not have a deadline for submission of proposals. You can submit a proposal at any time, and it's for any department which has a proposal which can meet the fund's evaluation criteria. You can submit at any time in the year. Although we have a small amount of funds, which is around $324,000 at the moment for new proposals. So the governance structure for this fund, unlike many others, trust funds, the fund does not have, a structure as such, like where we have the technical review committee or the oversight committee. It's a bilateral fund, and projects are submitted to the task manager, who's in PAM for evaluation and submission for concurrence with PPOC is People's Bank of China. That is where our contact is. Let me give you a little bit about some of the track record. Since its inception in 1996, the total funds that was around $2 million. And with interest, now the total fund is around 2.08 million. And it has dispersed 1.7, probably 1.7 million. That is as of December last year. So we have currently, as I mentioned before, $324,000 available. And there are two projects which have not been closed at the moment. Although since its inception, it has financed a total of 21 projects since 1996. There are some few examples here of some of the projects which have been funded by the fund, which includes the third Nairobi water supply, agricultural diversification project. There was a study on gender mainstreaming, which was done within the bank. And there was a learning activity on girls' education. And Uganda, there was a study towards China by the Uganda government officials. And then the fund also has done something else around the Health Ministers Conference, which was done sometime before. There are quite a number of activities. As I mentioned, there are around 21 of them, which have been financed by the fund. So the proposals can be submitted to me on that email address, and also copied to Roderick within FARM. So this is where you can submit. One thing I need to mention is the ceilings of some of the, how much can you apply by project? It's around $100,000. And we can actually approve within the bank. We can approve up to 30,000 per project, and then if it goes beyond that, then we have to concur with PBOC, that is China, and then the project can be financed. Otherwise, that's all about it. It's a small fund, but this is a technical cooperation which we have the fund. I would really ask anyone who may have a proposal or may have something, please kindly come to me. Let's discuss. Let's see whether we can be able to finance it. Happy to work with anyone to get to finance any project at the moment. I have got at least that amount which is still there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joel, for that explanation. Let's see if there are any questions that are coming through. In order to submit your questions, you can submit them on the Q&A tab. Maybe while we're waiting for other questions, Joel, I can just ask you, are there plans to replenish the fund?
Yes, yes, we have plans to replenish the fund. It's just that we would like to exhaust the amounts that we have at the moment, which is, it's a small amount, but we would like to exhaust the fund so that we can work out details of how we can replenish and discuss more with China for that matter. Thank you.
Okay. There's a question that's coming through saying, can private sector profiles be funded by this initiative? I'm not sure what they mean by private sector profiles. Maybe they mean private sector firms or projects, private sector projects. Is there a limit on private or public sector funding?
Okay. Oh, private sector study. Okay. That is to be done by the bank, or I mean, the question is not very clear.
So I guess they mean it can studies that involve private sector firms, can that be funded by the?
Yes, so long as it fits the criteria. So long as it fits the criteria, specifically that, remember this fund is 90% tied. So there is quite a lot of involvement by the Chinese government and or the Chinese, I mean, basically Chinese firms and individuals or consultants. So yeah, studies can be financed as long as it meets the criteria, specifically supporting the RMCs in Africa. So there are more questions here. Do you have templates for submission? Yes, we have a general template which we provide from FAM, and which I could provide to anyone who would like to submit a proposal. We have a template, yes. I think I've answered that. Is there a standard application? And if so, where do we get it? Yes, send me an email. I'll be able to send you a template for the proposal. By the bank usually leads this to evaluate private sector comes. There is a last question there, Roderick, which I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I think it's, I think they're just asking if private sector studies, again, can be financed.
I think I've answered that, yeah?
You've answered that, yeah.
That's correct.
There's a couple on the Q&A chat. The fund you described is different from AGTF. How to proceed with an existing ongoing project?
Yes, yes, I see the question on, yes, AGTF is different. Samuel will be presenting shortly about AGTF. This is a separate fund from AGTF. They are not the same.
The next one, Joe, is about capacity building. Do you have a capacity building component for RMCs?
Capacity building will depend on how it is coached. As I said before, the way the fund is structured is that it finances technical assistance. So if that means maybe a consultant comes in to support a country to build some capacity, we could consider that, yes. Is there any other question?
I think that might be it. Was there anyone else that was going to be speaking? It says, how long does it take between the application and receipt of support?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I wouldn't really point out as the period, but I think roughly it goes almost maybe 3 months.
3 months?
Yeah, probably anything from 1 month to 3 months, yes.
Okay. Anything else, Joel? That's so there's one last question. We'll just say, how about funding to study or evaluate impacts of a private sector project? So evaluation.
Yes, we could do evaluation of impacts of private sector projects, so long as there is substantial involvement of China in the project, yes.
In the project or in the doing the study, Joel, just to be clear?
In the project, yes, in the project. Remember I said this fund is, a lot of it is actually tied to China, so that's all. That's how it is.
So it needs to be a project that has a China component in it.
Yes, substantial involvement, which means that China, there is China involvement in the project, yes, or a consultant who will be from China to support the evaluation of the project, yes.
But just to be clear, Joel, is it both or is it one or the other?
Okay, let me be clear on this, that there is substantial involvement. What I mean substantial involvement, if the consultant will be a Chinese consultant, yes, because that's it has to have that component of China. The project also on one hand could substantially be a Chinese supported project. That's where, yes, we can be able to support that with the fund, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Yupu is also here. He's the Chinese advisor in the bank. Would you like to say something?
Well, thank you, Mr. Joe. Thank you, team, to invite me to attend this meaningful introduction and discussion. So I'm happy to attend it for two targets. One is that I can exchange views with the bank staffs on the TF. And the second one is I hope to have knowledge and suggestions and wishes from the staffs based on the current situation of China development level and regarding how China could contribute efficiently and effectively to the Africa. So I hope the staff could share their views on that and give me more suggestions on this TF. So I would like to clarify that China TF, if we compare TF and HTF, you will find a big difference on that. But China Trust Fund is just following the situation of our developing progress. So based on that situation of China, we set up this trust fund. You know, my country faced on big challenge in poverty reduction. Our strategy is that we give Africa support as much as possible we can. But at that time, we have not big experience how to efficiently and effectively. Another side is that at the same time, China got support from World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. So we use this trust fund to hope to realize some targets. So if it's based on experiences, this trust fund is successful if evaluate that. So except for the projects, this trust fund to finance some TA, finance some seminars. You know, as for me, I implemented one project in Cote d'Ivoire through this trust fund to support the rice project, to introduce rice technology to Cote d'Ivoire. So that's very meaningful. Except for that, I can share some great target we have achieved. One is that we know each other in cultures. You know, it's a very early steps for China through platform of MDB to join the project in this trust fund. So we know each other in culture. The second one is educated the staffs from both sides to do China-Africa relation. You know, because of difference of culture, China and African countries. And also staff know less about China at that time. And as well, China staff to know Africa affairs. So this trust fund promote largely on that. And the third one is through seminar, contractor knew more about the rules and regulation of procurement and disbursement. So this trust fund supported a lot, many times. I remember in the first 10 years, each year, we use this trust fund to support a seminar and a business opportunity seminar in China and in different countries like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. You know, there are many private sector or public state-owned enterprises are very interested to involve in the business in Africa. So through this trust fund and the seminars, more Chinese enterprises and the contractors know AFDB. And we, at that time, procurement department and disbursement department and the PBOC encourage China contractors to register as a list in a bank according to quality. So in this regard, is also very good result we realize. And another one is that giving a practical support to the consultant in China. You know, in China, consultants in Africa, very weak position compared with contractor. Based on that time, we have adequate experts in professional, but not in language. So they can have a very good experience, but cannot prepare in English and the format with the, you know, the required by the bank. So it's a big challenge, but this TF supports some consultant firm in China to cooperate with the Western consultant firm together and to learn a lot how to make consultation in EFDB. And the fifth one is rethinking and learning lessons from the implementation of the trust fund for the future trust fund after the end of this trust fund. So I can tell you that at that time, China trust fund is totally copy of the style of the Canada trust fund. So at that time, we have no very clear target at that time. We just feel that, okay, we would like to support African countries and how. But we use this to express our support. But through these years experience, now we rethink how to reform and how to make a big and good change and to use some style of trust fund to give more efficient and effective support to African countries. Thank you, Joe. That's my brief comments for my, you know, in the past experience in TTF. I have deep feelings on this product. You know, when I was young, I did some project in this. I tried to find a good consultant to, you know, but at that time, so difficult to find a suitable consultant to do projects. You know, we try to find contact with World Bank and Asian Development Bank to find a good one to make consultation. But anyway, now it's different. The new generation, they have higher technology and they have a very good language, even both language, you know. I think we will know this situation, and in the future, TF will make more contribution and with a new face.
Mr. Yupo, thank you so much for your remarks. It's really very helpful. And yeah, I think, you know, you've explained quite a bit. We still have AGTF to present, and then there will be some bit of question there. So Roderick, take over.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joel. And we will try and, for those that we didn't have a chance to get to in terms of questions, we will we'll provide a link to the presentation, as well as you can always reach out to Joel directly for further perspective. Samuel, please, for AGTF. Please present.
Thank you. Hello, good day to everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. The AGTF, that is Africa Growing Together Fund, it's not a trust fund, but a special fund that was established between the bank and the People's Bank of China.
Samuel, would you please put the full mode, please?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Sam, if you can put the full mode, can you? Are you able to? Full mode screen. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the Africa Growing Together Fund is not a trust fund, but a special fund that was established between the bank and the People's Bank of China in May 2014. But it actually started in November, around November 2014. The size was USD $2 billion. That should be the total, but the initial contribution was 50 million USD. The AGTL supports various operational priorities of the bank and is key instrument in scaling the implementation of the 10-year strategy and the high fives. Basically, the AGTF concentrates on areas like transport, power and energy, agriculture, water and sanitation, and the financial sector. So far, we have, okay, let me continue. There are various requirements and limits, like those who are eligible and how much you can take. We know that the AGTF is for a 10-year investment period. That is from 2014 up to 2024. And one of the main characteristics of the AGTF is that its loans need to be approved by the board, by the PBOC, that is the People's Bank of China, before being approved by the bank's board. And AGTF will not be a standalone financing resource. Any project in which AGTF resources are being solicited must also be co-financed by the bank. The AGTF has country limits, and the country limits are basically 200 million USD dollars or euro equivalent for any of the countries that qualify. So if you qualify, you can utilize up to 200 million, either through the non-sovereign operations or through the sovereign operations. And currently, Nigeria and Tanzania have utilized their limit. Nigeria has 150 that has been approved and has other 2 projects in pipeline that will make them even to oversubscribe their 200 million limits. And Tanzania has got 200 million approved, and they still have projects that we are asking that if they will give a waiver. So basically, the AGTF goes by this way, that the projects that qualify, the bank ADB portion, if it's sovereign operation, AGTF will be able to co-finance up to 80% of the bank's portion, but it's capped at 50 million United States dollars or euro equivalent. Basically, the loan currencies for AGTF are USD and the euro. So if it's sovereign, then AGTF can co-finance up to 80% of what the bank is financing, but basically capped at 50 million USD. If it's non-sovereign operation, AGTF will be co-financing up to 50% of what the bank is financing. And that one is also capped at 30 million USD. We know AGTF has been able to assist in various operations. And currently, we have, as I've said, for the transport sector, we've exhausted the limit of the 500 million. And we have some availability for other sectors, though we have some in pipeline. If we see water and sanitation, we have a limit of $117.5 million. We have 332.5 billion that have been approved and pipeline of 50 million. So we are left with 117.5 million. Agriculture, we have only 54.3 million approved and 130 million pipeline. So we have 315.67 available for agriculture. For the energy sector, we have 229 million approved and we have pipeline of 128.550 and 1.42.45 available. Transport sector, we have even exceeded. Actually, we have some pipeline projects we are requesting for waivers that they will approve. 4 projects that have reached various stages. We have the financial sector that only 37.58 has been approved, and we have pipeline of 47 million. So we have some headroom for the financial sector. Basically, the AGTF starts like this. We will have to share a project schedule with our co-financing counterparts in China. And if they are interested in the project, they will execute it by also signing. When we receive the executed project schedule, we need to share either the PCN or the PEN, that is project concept note, or the project evaluation note with PBOC. And they will look at it. If they assess it and they are still interested in the project, then they will send us a non-binding letter of interest. After that, we need to share the power with them. When they receive the power, they will assess it. If they have some questions, they will send it to us to revert back to them on those questions. If not, per the agreement, they are supposed to give us their response within 6 business days after receiving the power. And basically, working with our team, we see that for them, they are always ready to assist and strictly go by the agreement. So if we are able to share the various documents with them, we can complete an AGTF loan within 6 weeks. But I said that normally we are not able to share because we have some projects that even we received a non-binding letter of interest since 2019 and 2020 that we have not been able to share the power with them. Basically, sometimes it's been said that AGTF is difficult to assess, or if everything follows as it is, AGTF is not difficult to assess, but we have to follow the terms in the agreement, because AGTF does not give concessionary loans. So if we are sending projects to people, then we should know that it's not for concessionary loans. If we send that one, I mean, definitely they will not approve it. Recently, during the COVID period, we did indicate that we did some trials, sent some projects, but they did not approve it. And actually, these are some of the issues that we have with AGTF. So basically, that's about the AGTF. If there are questions.
Thank you, Samuel.
Yes.
Let us open the floor for questions. I see one that's coming in. It says, I'm wondering why there are such big utilization variances of the fund under respective sectors. Why are some sectors heavily using versus others, Samuel?
Okay. Basically, we do it as we receive, then we send. And I think 2019 management of phase one, okay, currently AGTF is being managed by phase one. Adopted a strategy that we should be proactive. So we look at pipelines of all the various sectors in the bank, complexes in the bank, and we try to send emails asking for AGTF participation if they are interested in AGTF. But what has been realized is that for the transport sector, more projects come from the transport sector, especially the non-sovereign operation. And definitely when we send them, they are approved. So you see that the transport sector has been able to even overutilize their limits. But and basically we can, the AGTF operates like, if the bank has given like approval for a project, then AGTF can also tap into it. So for now, we'll try to encourage our colleagues in the financial sector, various departments or divisions in the financial sector and other sectors, agri and energy, to also contact us with any projects that they have. And if you contact AGTF and maybe AGTF cannot assist or co-finance, we can share it with other facilities in the division and see if it can be made use of.
Okay, so Samuel, I'm assuming that just as a matter of process that people should always think about when they're doing projects, they should think about contacting AGTF.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, it should be. So there's another question about, so since AGTF has to be co-financed with ADB, does it mean that in SO operations, all the project contracts must be jointly financed with the two windows? In addition, does it also require Chinese content as part of the conditions to satisfy to use it?
Okay, I'll answer the second question first. Basically, per the agreement, there's nothing that shows of Chinese content. But I think on the field, many of the contractors or this, there are Chinese content. If there's Chinese content, it's good, but it doesn't specifically require a Chinese content. And those, the AGTF goes with the banking term, the ADB terms. So procurement and all this, it goes like what the bank's terms are.
Okay, so that's, so no content.
Yes, no, but normally, practically on the field, there are some of the projects have Chinese content, but it's not a requirement that.
But not a requirement.
PBOK will require it before they approve a project. No.
There was another question. The ceiling of US 200 million per country is small. Is there an opportunity to increase that country cap?
Yes, we have been trying to request for waiver, especially Nigeria and Tanzania, but we have not received approval. It's been, even we went on mission in December 2019, we did talk about that. We came, we sent documents in meetings with them. We've been talking about that, but we've still not received approval to increase the country limits. Yes, for countries that are really participating in the AGTF facility.
There's another question about sector limits and what has what informed the sector limits, and has that changed now?
Well, I guess based upon the prevailing situation then, the senior level management of the bank that went to initiate this agreement, agree with, because it's basically GTF is to help Africa development, the development. So I think by that time, they decided that it would be wise that sector limits should be adopted.
Are there any, there's a question about COVID. Are there any changes in vision because of COVID, Samuel?
Basically, no. As I said in my presentation, during the bank COVID response, rapid response, we did talk to them, and we tried that they will help us with, but the final response that came was that people is strictly adhering to the terms of the agreement. So basically, they were not going to take COVID response projects.
Okay. Is there an idea on what the AGTF 2.0 might look like? What are some of the future things that you may be doing with the co-financing facility, with the special fund?
Well, basically, I don't think, because as of now, we have utilized close to about 1.2 billion of the 2 billion. Then we have in pipeline close to 400 million. So basically, we are, if everything goes on well, we are getting closer to maybe exhausting the fund. So there's the consideration that we will ask for an increase, like maybe if we can be given 5 billion so that more African countries and non-sovereign operations can be assisted through the AGTF.
Okay. And, but there's no idea to possibly create a blending facility or to do something a bit more innovative in the next ask for the fund?
Well, we can look at that. I think management can look at that. It's something we can take it into consideration and discuss it with management and see the possibility. But anything that we are going to do will need the agreement of our co-financing partners, the People's Bank of China. They will have to agree to that.
So there's a comment about, says the AGTF has been in implementation since 2014. They could now trust ADB very well in terms of our NSO transactions. Do you think we could approach them to provide us facilities we manage in parallel with our balance sheet, like MCPP they have with IFC? Maybe this could be AGTF 2.0 versus just replenishment of the current structure. Let me, Jihan, can I ask that you turn the mic on for VP Quainer to express, I'm not familiar with MCPP, but maybe it's worth hearing the idea, and this may give you ideas, Samuel.
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, 1 second. Yes, VP, you can speak now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear
Yes,
you.
please.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, not a problem, Rod. And thank you very much. Apologies, I joined late, so I didn't hear a lot of the presentation. But essentially, the Managed Co-Lending Portfolio Program was a program that IFC put together when its balance sheet was constrained. And essentially, it approached, insurance companies, the People's Bank of China and other central banks to provide it funding that it puts into a pool. And IFC at its option can actually, leverage, that MCPP to co-lend on projects without having to go to an AGTF on a deal-by-deal basis. Mm. So the criteria is set ahead of time as to which sorts of projects will qualify. And instead of approval on a deal-to-deal basis, there's, I think, a quarterly or half-year update on really the performance of the co-lending facility. So it gives IFC the ability to go to a client and essentially say, whereas I could only do $5 before, I can do $10 today. And that's more powerful, and it's really a way of leveraging beyond your balance sheet as if it was your balance sheet, but making sure that you only look at projects that fit the criteria, the predetermined criteria of this pool of funds.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Samuel,
Thank you.
something definitely to consider
Yes,
as you
yes.
start thinking about replenishment.
Yes, we'll do that. Thank you very much, VP.
Thank you, Samuel.
Okay.
Listen, just in the interest of time, a couple more question. I mean, there's a couple of questions about eligibility, Sam.
Okay.
Is Chad eligible for the program?
Okay. Technically, for non-sovereign operations, Chad will be eligible. But for the sovereign, Chad is not an ADB country or a country in ADF that qualifies for the AGTF. According to the original members classification that we have, Chad.
Okay. Listen, it looks like there's no other questions. Samuel?
Okay.
Are there any, either Joel or Samuel, are there any further comments that you'd like to make about your respective funds?
Yes, I would like to say for AGTF, we are always welcome to contact us. The AGTF Secretariat, our email is there, or you can contact me or Maman or anybody in Fixed One. If you send, but ideally, if you send a mail to me, anything about AGTF, we'll just discuss with you and see how best we can help you.
Is there, just one last question from you, Samuel, has there been a review with the People's Bank of China as to how they have found the program over the last 7 years? Has there been an assessment of the program, and if so, are they happy with the success of the program to date?
Yes, please. In 2017, there was a revision. So the agreement was revised in 2017, and the People's Bank of China expressed their satisfaction on how it's been operated. And as I did say, we embarked upon a mission in December 2019, and they did express that they are happy with how the special fund is being handled or managed by the bank.
Okay, excellent. Well, I certainly think there's opportunities to continue to communicate and build awareness for both of the funds that we dealt with today, both Joel, your fund, as well as Samuel. So thank you for the discussion today. Thank you for everyone for participating. Next week, Jihan, what do we have next week on the agenda for the brown bag?
Yeah, next week we have Japan.
We have Japan.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. So listen, so stay tuned for Japan for in 2 weeks. And thank you for everyone for participating today. With that, we'll close this session of the Brown Bag, from Brown Bag.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.